Good evening from Earthquake Stadium, Section 113. Charles Wollin, Joel Soria, Jamon Moore, Alex Morgan, the full crew here with you tonight. The Quakes, they're coming off of a win. They're looking for another win tonight in the California Clasico, the 73rd edition that these two teams have met in the regular season. Let's give you the starting 11 this evening. It is an unchanged starting 11. JT Marcinkowski continues in goal tonight. Lopez, Beeson, Youngworth, and Lima across the back line. The midfield three, Judson, Jackson Ewell, Andy Rios just beneath Wando in that number 10 role. Fierro on the left, Espinosa on the right, and of course, Wando up top. We heard from Cristian Espinosa in midweek. Would love to tell you a little bit more about what he had to say in preparation for this game as well. He says, what the amount of days between games gives you is that when you have a full week to train, you have time for your players to recover, time to, during the week, work on what in the last game did not go well, as had been happening to us. We'd come from very difficult defeats, and the margin of time to correct was very narrow. We had 1 day of rest in which the only guys who could possibly train were those who didn't play or maybe played very little, and the rest of us who started the game had to rest. He goes on to say, and then the next day, we had to start preparing for the next game. Then when you have a full week to work, you have time to recover your players. And after that, you have time to work with what the coach wants, the full team, complete. The other day, we found that internal fire that you need in difficult situations. And we were able to achieve a great result, which, as I told you, helps your morale immensely for what's left of the season. So here is the Quakes' most expensive player on their roster, the club record signing, kind of giving a little bit of a synopsis of what it is to play, not just week in, week out, but week in and midweek in and every 3 days. I'm joined for commentary, Joel Soria, just over to my right shoulder on the Wingers comments. Good evening to you, Joel. What do you make of that and the lineup tonight from Matias Almeida unchanged?
Good evening to you, Charles, and to you, Jamon, and Alex, and all the viewers back home. I think that for the first time ever since the MLS is back tournament in Orlando, the San Jose Earthquakes are finally able to present a starting 11 that has had 5 days of practice and a healthy amount of rest. And I think that's what's most intriguing to me, at least, heading into this pivotal match against the Galaxy that can really determine whether or not this team is going to actually be in the fight for MLS Cup playoffs in a couple of months. In regards to the 11, I think that it's the smartest choice that Matias could have made to repeat the same 11 that played against LAFC last week. As we know, that bared good results for Matias and co. And tonight, he makes no mistake in sticking with Marcinkowski between the sticks and playing the rest of the 10 who put out a decent performance against Bob Bradley's men. Of course, a win tonight would be huge for the spirits of this team who just a couple of weeks ago looked like they were ready to tap out.
And Jamon, on the defensive side of things, JT Marcinkowski continued this evening. Also an unchanged back four as well. Lopez seems to really have cemented his place also at the left back position, and Nick Lima in the right back position. And due to some, selections by Matias Almeida, Florian Youngworth and Tanner Beeson as well partnered in that center back role. And it's fair to say that Tanner Beeson has maybe even won that position, even though Osvaldo Alanis is injured right now.
Yeah, absolutely, Charles. And we will take a look soon about what JT Marcinkowski brought in the last game. But let's focus on the defense for a bit. Osvaldo Alanis is in the 20, but apparently not ready for 90 minutes. So he is going to be in the 20 tonight. They're going to stick with the center back pairing that they had against LAFC, Youngworth and Beeson. Marcos Lopez is about to go to Peru. We believe that that's going to happen in the next couple days. This is the last time we will see him for as many as 4 or 5 games. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with the left back position. Nick Lima did a great job on Christian Pavon last time. He deserves a chance to face him again, but it'll be tricky when Lima may have to go over to the left side when Lopez is gone. We'll see how things go tonight. It's probably the best lineup they could have put out there given the circumstances.
And Alex, let's talk a little bit about LAFC and the Quakes and their first victory against LAFC last week. It seemed like it was probably about 3 years ago, but now we're here just a week on. Let's talk about counterattacking style from this team, potentially maybe not possessing as much against a Galaxy team this evening. And did he get his tactics right last week?
Absolutely, Charles. Look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That was an astonishing victory over LAFC last weekend. And I think starting with the same 11 gives the Quakes the best chance of repeating it this week. I think it's important mentally. It's really easy for this team to relapse into old habits. And I think the consistency of playing with the same lineup gives them the best chance to maintain that momentum. And I think, as you say, it's also important tactically. Against LAFC, they played more defensively. They had more on the counter attack. And I think that style of play suits this team more. It's more appropriate to the moment. And I think that will be the key tonight. And the question then is, how do they score goals? The question is, how do they score goals? Because LAFC pressed really high. And what they were able to do against LAFC was they were able to get space in behind and launch on the counter attack. That's how Shea Salinas scored his goal. That's how they scored. Jackson Yule scored his late winner late on. But that is not the LA Galaxy. They don't press as high. So the question is going to be, it's almost a game of chicken. Who is going to be willing to commit more men forward, and who's going to be able to go forward and get that goal?
Yeah, let's hear from Chris Wondolowski. He had some comments to the media midweek, so we'll hear from him now.
Well, the game plan is, again, we need to possess it. And so we need to spread the field. We need to have it in their offensive half, in our offensive half. And we need to be able to isolate our playmakers. We need to be able to feed Christian the ball, feed Andy the ball, feed Fierro the ball in the right places. But right now we can't connect 3 passes. And so when we're building out of our back and losing the ball in midfield, you can't create chances. You can't win the ball high up the field if we can't possess the ball. If you can't keep it more than 5 passes, then we can't do what we want to do. And, I think that it's just a snowball effect and a domino effect where once that goes down, then the next thing, then we're defending more and we're a step late to our guy because we're opening up and trying to do that. And then we're tired and then less movement when we have the ball. And again, all this is a just domino effect of why we're not being successful.
So there you got the captain, Chris Wondolowski, chatting actually after the Colorado lost, the 5-0 defeat, which was quite problematic. Obviously, the Quakes went on to win last week against LAFC. We'll see if they continue that tonight. Let's hear as well from the goal scorer at the death, Jackson Yule, after last week's game-winning goal.
So that we wanted to play out of the back. We didn't care about mistakes or passing the ball wrong, and I think that's what we were missing in the other games was keeping possession when we needed to. And it was super important that we got off the right foot. And I think the aggressive mentality part from everyone on the team was phenomenal tonight. Everyone put in a really hard shift. The games were so close together, and I think everyone who stepped in, started, or came in off the bench, I think did a phenomenal job, keeping the energy very high and not letting them get as many chances as they usually get in most games. So I think the overall performance mentally was very strong from everyone.
So the reason we're playing both those Crips, Chris Wondolowski after the Colorado game and Jackson Yule after the LAFC game, is because they're both talking about possession and the Quakes building the ball out of the back. And Christian Espinosa also talked to us about that yesterday. He said that we've been working on the same things this time around at training this week. We tried to focus a little bit more on possession, on ball control, which is obviously what's going to give us higher probability of chances, of scoring chances, and potentially winning the game. And oftentimes I think we think of playing defensively and playing with possession and controlling the ball as opposite ends of the spectrum. But I actually think that these two strategies dovetail quite nicely, because if the Quakes can keep the ball, if they can possess at the back, that's going to draw LA Galaxy forward more and give them more space into in behind to break away quickly on those quick counterattacks.
let's talk a little bit about. I think we've got that that LA Galaxy lineup as well. And Joel, why don't you go ahead and give that to us and how we expect them to line up this evening?
Yeah, only one change from the last match for the Galaxy. They're going to be playing with Bingham out of the back. It looks like Insua on the left-hand side, Depew, Suarez, Fletcher, and then in the midfield they're going to have 2 free eights with Perry Kitchen and Joe Corona. A 3 in the attack with Pavon, Dos Santos, and Leggett, and then up top obviously Chicharito, who's waiting to unleash out of that cage. Only one change, as I mentioned, for this Galaxy team that hasn't won since early September, that 3-0 victory against their rivals LAFC. Kitchen in for Araujo. I expect a Galaxy to be a little bit less focused on retaining possession the last 2 times that they've gone up against the Quakes. In that first 3-2 victory over the Quakes, Galaxy did not win possession, and neither did they just a couple of weeks ago when they played to draw here at Earthquakes Roubaix. I expect the Galaxy, as the rest of the team has been mentioning, to be a bit flat-footed, to maybe put some blocks in the midfield and really hope to win that counter-attack in the heart of the field and try to burst with their speed that they have from Pavon and Leggett. And now Dos Santos playing somewhat of a number 10 role with Chicharito up top, who's obviously itching to score a goal.
Last time these two teams met, it was a 0-0 draw here at Earthquakes Stadium. And Jamon, you've got a few charts to show us as well as we go into the 73rd California Clasico.
Yeah, the first chart that I want to show, it's called the passes per defensive action, and this is for the entire league, if Jason can bring that up. What you're going to see in this graph is that the Quakes are toward the middle of the league. This is a sign of pressures. It allows us to be able to see which teams are pressuring and more successfully because they're limiting the number of passes in between defensive actions. The Quakes are in the middle. The Galaxy are more toward the bottom. LAFC is more toward the top. So that pressure was on last week. You can see LAFC there, top in the West, number 3 overall in passes per defensive action. They don't allow very many passes, and that's because of the type of pressure and counter press that they like to do. But the Galaxy tend to sit back a lot more. The question, I think, for all of us is going to be, can the Quakes find a way to break them down? Now, a key to being able to break them down is going to be JT Marcinkowski in goal, just like it was last week. One of the things that JT was able to bring was to draw defenders in and then play balls in behind them over the top, particularly out to his wings. So we have a graph that kind of shows a comparison of JT Marcinkowski's 2 games and the last game for Daniel Vega as well. And what you'll see here is that JT has been far more effective with those kind of medium range long balls, particularly out to the wings. Vega on the left, JT on the right. When they both hit more toward the central midfield, which Vega does more often, it doesn't turn out the best for the Quakes. The Quakes don't really have the right hold-up player to win those balls and win the second balls and be able to progress forward. They work better when they can play those balls underneath. And JT's perfect for that. He hits a perfect kind of clip ball that goes out to the wings, but it's very important that sometimes that pressure comes for those opportunities to be open. The Galaxy may have taken the tape from last week and said, we're not going to pressure him. So then the question is, well, now the Quakes have to play through the mid-block and be able to break them down. That's their biggest challenge tonight. And they weren't able really to do it in the last game against the Galaxy. And so we're going to have to see if they've learned anything from that and from the way that they played last week. They should be facing less pressure than they were, though.
The Galaxy winless in the last 3. You have to go back to the draw here, 0-0 at Earthquake Stadium for their last draw. Let's go to final thoughts this evening. I'll start with you, Joel Soria.
I'm really intrigued on how the Quakes are going to come out today. Are they going to elect to play a more conservative defensive role as they did against LAFC? Or are they going to come out guns blazing like they have in the past? And if they do so, obviously you have to be very, very cautious with this Galaxy side who have a lot of potential from the midfield forward. I'm thinking that it's going to be a bit more conservative from both sides, as we saw in that 0-0 draw. But obviously, let's not forget that a win here for the Quakes is crucial for their playoff hopes.
All right, let's go back to Jamon Moore on the wing.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching Tanner Beeson along with JT tonight because Tanner had a really excellent game against LAFC, and I'm intrigued to see if that was a one-time thing or if he's really starting to get the hang of things with both Matias's system and the speed of the league. He's got to keep track of Chicharito tonight, along with Youngworth. That's going to be a handful for him, and he's going to have to track other runners, and a lot of communication is going to need to go on. But so far, we're seeing these steps forward. I'm excited to see how Tanner Beeson reacts in a Cali Clasico game with this type of pressure.
All right. Thank you, Jamon. And final thoughts tonight from Alex Morgan.
I'm going to have to yell because the teams are coming out behind me. They're playing the music loud here at Quakes Stadium. And I'm really intrigued by this game, about the tactical battle between these two teams, both of whom have struggled in recent weeks and both of whom are set up to play defensively. As I said earlier, I think it might be a game of chicken. Who's willing to take more risk? Who's willing to push more numbers forward? And who can capitalize? And I think that Matias Almeida has put his team in a good position to maintain the momentum that they started to build last week against LAFC with that 2-1 victory. But tonight's a huge game. It'll be really easy for them to relapse into old habits. I expect it to be a more conservative, cagey, low-scoring game, but I would love to be surprised on that front.
Yeah, Matias Almeida's teams have done traditionally well against the LA Galaxy. We'll see if the momentum continues tonight for Almeida and the San Jose Earthquakes. Big shout out to everybody tuning in. Liam Fishman, I know you're in that driving party. It's your first driving party. I'm sure you're honking your horn and having a good time. We are Black and Azul. Joel Soria, Alex Morgan, Jamon Moore. Our producer is Jason Sholl. Our associate producer, Aaron Sholl. I'm Charles Wollin. We will see you after the match. Enjoy. Take care. Stay safe. Cheers.